everyone, and welcome back to another AOS Crowd video. Today, myself, Quinn, is joined by the legend himself. 5 turns of Warhammer and a tournament?
7.
Phil Marshall.
Hi everyone. Good to be back. Another team event coming up.
Yeah. Originally, we were gonna have math on, but unfortunately, work is a thing. His employment doesn't necessarily allow for great video recordings. But yeah, first and foremost, thank you all so much for the great feedback and watching our last video, the Carnage Teams event. And we come to you today in the new year with a new and improved version of AOS Crowd, refreshed, renewed, all energetic and ready to go. So Phil, what have you been up to?
What have I been up to? I have become a TTS goblin. So we have
TTS is real.
It is real. We found out in the last video, and if you didn't find out, go and watch the last video because you'll realise TTS is real. I've been playing a lot of TTS. Just having to play around with factions that we think are going to get nerfed, like playing around with lists. So just doing a lot of build up for worlds, really. Outside of that, not a lot. Busy with work, busy painting models.
The Team England behemoth never sleeps.
Try not to. Not now. We've all got TTS installed anyway. So yeah. How about yourself?
Just roaming around the country, doing like training camps, playing games, keeping track of my reps. It's the 27th, and I've already played 20 games of Warhammer this year, which is what people usually play in like 2 to 3 months.
Oh yeah, easy. Yeah.
We're all just goblins, and since Worlds is in Austria, I do want to kind of be prepared, put it that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, painting models, writing bachelor theses, doing the work, just chilling. And obviously recovering from the mental scarring that I received at the event, which we were going to talk about.
Well, I think you thoroughly deserved it for the list that you took because you weren't
100%.
wanting to be a very nice person. So
why do you think I grew out the tiny little hairs that grace my face to a villainous goatee?
I played a lovely fun list. I gave my opponents the best time. They could go to the bar like straight away. So I mean,
keep track of other players.
Exactly. They could go off, do some shopping in Cardiff if they wanted to, for like 2 hours, and then come back. Yeah.
Well, obviously, the event we're talking about here is Brotherhood 5. It's the 1-year anniversary of our channel, quite literally. I think we released the video on Brotherhood about a year ago, to the day of recording, of course. And yeah, much has happened since then. We've attended multiple events. We've learned a lot about video editing, and that I quite like making thumbnails. So
I quite like you making thumbnails as well. So.
Well, at least someone appreciates my work. So yeah, welcome to our Brotherhood 5 review. The attendance this year was quite dense. Most of the 20 teams that attended last year did so again this year, albeit with slightly different rosters, new addition, different styles of armies, different builds, different approaches to the event itself. But first and foremost, Phil, what team did you lead into the fray?
So quite commonly, Team England, we don't put Team England down for UK team events because it feels a bit try hard. And also it's like, it's not really the image we want to paint, like, oh yeah, Team England. So There were 2 England teams at the event. We had 6 of one and half a dozen of the other, which little pun. Simon Weekly came up with that when we did a last minute, let's say, team names, and he just put it in, and I was like, yeah, done, sold, cool. The interesting thing with this was we literally just got battlescroll maybe a week before list submission. So we kind of looked at it internally as an opportunity to test a lot of things rather than have like the obvious stuff on both sets of teams. So across the 12 players England had at the event, we only had one faction duplication, and that was Skaven.
Yeah, with identical lists, I believe, as well.
Quite similar. One was a 21 Stormfiend 1-drop on the other team. And then our team had Gabe Huddleston, who was running Fleshmail Menagerie with Master Molder, 6 Rat Ogres, 12 Stormfiends, a Grey Sid, Death Master, and 20 Night Runners. So a bit more of like a singles all-comers list. So probably not what you'd typically see, but he ate a lot of shit at the weekend. He didn't get a win, but he bought lots of wins for everyone else. He was happy with his rolling pairings. He did it with a smile on his face. Got a lot of great points for us. And we basically had a plan where we were going to try and remove the best list that people had with Gabe, and Gabe did it with a smile on his face. So shout to Gabe, absolute
shout
legend.
Out to Gabe. We love Gabe.
We then tried monster trucks. So Lewis Swan played 7 Stonehorns. One was a Frostlord, I think.
Everything else, Huskards.
Yeah. That list seems mad. Like, on a 1, do 4 mortal wounds. Brilliant. Like, fucking hell.
It's
crazy.
Free damage.
Yeah. Like, so good. So we decided to test that out to see if it was in fact real, to like play it on an actual table with terrain and stuff. We then did the Flesh Eater Morbeg Knight list with Usharan. We had a Crypt Infernal Courtier, 18 Morbegs, a Gore Warden, and a Vargulf. So not the standard Marrow build.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, strong recursion. Did really well at the weekend, which we'll go through in a bit more detail later.
Yeah. Played by Richie, of course.
Yeah, Richie McCalley. We then had Simon Weekly on Soulblight. Again, one of the armies that, based on the meta rep, quite low down. But we took Radikar the Wolf, 60 Graveguard, 30 Skeletons, I think. Evia Volga, because she can be a Field Sergeant, so you make all the Graveguard even faster with Lash of the Sire, etc.
Yeah.
Vargeists for the teleports, give them a bit more speed, but we kind of felt like in the meta it's a good army that can play a lot of missions people don't want to play. And with the recursion aspect, it can pair quite well into like States of Darkness, like get alphaed and get tabled and then come back and still play for points, etc. We then had the legend that is Freddie Leggett. He took a very interesting list with very few war scrolls. He ended up on Blazer Corn with
what a surprise.
10, 20, 30, 35 Wrathmongers, 40 Blood Warriors, a Realm Gore Ritualist, and an Aspiring Deathbringer. I will let Quin tell you later on about how silly this list is. But He did really well. Needless to say, it's also Freddie,
Mhm.
so you kind of expect it to do really well. I was the shining light of our team and played the most narrative list going.
A beacon in the
Um,
darkness for all narrative gamers out there.
exactly, the true hobby hero. I played Slater Darkness, obviously. Why wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
I? I took a few of the most efficient war scrolls in the game.
Yep.
And a delivery mechanism that made people want to cry. So I had Gaunt Summoner, 10 Chosen, with a banner of screaming flesh sitting in the lad's head,
Mm-hmm.
or lass. 10 more Chosen, because I could. So why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't you take 10 more?
6 Varangard. And then I had a unit of Furies to do my battle tactics while I killed everyone. So
Mm-hmm.
that was kind of it. We'll go through the vast amount of Warhammer that I played later, but I took top of one a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's bad, really bad.
It's really, really stupid.
Talking about my bad list, how bad was your bad list?
My bad list was really, really bad. Similar to
Yeah,
last year, I felt inspired by a list that I saw at a tournament a couple of weeks, months prior to list submission. So I have to give full credit, like I did last year. It's not of my own making. But inspiration was taken from Bastian Gerstner, from former Team Germany member, and now retired from the World Squad legend. I took Stormcast Eternals, a lovely, lovely 2-drop Vanguard Wing. So you can probably guess the rest of the units that I'm taking. A
no
Celestine
long
Prime.
strikes. No long strikes, right? No,
No, no, I wouldn't. I wouldn't.
nah.
That's
Didn't think so. I knew you were a good guy.
that's what normal Quinn would do. I'm
Yeah,
the villain now. So I took 18 Longstrikes, 3 Raptors with Hurricane Crossbows because I'm not that kind of a dick. 2 units of Vigilors, Night Relictor, and the Toilet, because what else are you going to take? I like playing a couple of turns of Warhammer. And I did over the weekend, but I also fell hard on my face because I didn't practice with the list at all. I just saw it at a tournament, thought, hey, this looks fun. And then I played it, and I realized I might actually not have the brain power ready for this.
yeah, you got to be really hot on all the movement with it, haven't you? And the deep
Mm-hmm.
strikes and setting up your Night Relictor for counter praying, translocate,
Yeah.
blah 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 blah.
Everything.
Yeah, I played against it when we realised TTS was real,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, the list is solid, really solid.
Yeah. But you
What was
do
the rest of
need
the composition?
a little bit of brains to work it, and I didn't have it
Yeah,
at the time. But yeah, of course, part of Team Lit. Of course, we had the usual suspects with Adam Mumford running.
legend.
I didn't have Deepkin, who were after the battle scroll really, really solid, I think. And he took an Eidolon of the Sea, an Eidolon of the Storm, a Leviathan, and a load of Ishlang Guard. Because why
Fair.
not? Super efficient, super nice, compact. Then, of course, the next usual suspect with Mark Colville running his beloved Lumineth Realm Lords.
Lovely army, great to play against.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure you will go into great detail about how that game went. With a Lord Regent, 10 Dawn Riders, 20 Sentinels, Riverblade, Alanian Elithor, and a Spirit of the Wind, and a couple of Wind Chargers. So,
Yep.
all around, pretty solid
And
list.
a ballista.
Can't forget the Ballista.
Yeah.
Most important aspect of the entire list. The fulcrum, really.
Yep.
Then, of course, beloved Will Hawley. his self-appointed nickname, The Bus, took Nurgle. Last year he was our KO bus driver. This year he played Nurgle, and he had a great time just pushing the Glotkin and a great and clean one, and a couple dozen plague bearers around. He had a great time. It looked like a great time. And yeah. Then, of course, the legendary Greg, who went full Morbeg. And this is one of the times you always go full Morbeg, with Ushoran, 21 Morbeg Knights, Cardinal, Marrow Scroll, and I think 20 Crypt Guard for full frickin' bats. I love bats.
Yeah.
And then, of course, that's shit crazy. And then, of course, our fellow co-host, couldn't make it today, Derek Erickson, Mathmallow, taking Beast of Chaos with 60 Bestigor and a couple of Doom Bulls. Bulgors, sorry.
Yeah. The
Super
amount of people
obnoxious,
that
list.
see Derek Erickson and go, oh my god, Mathmallow's not at the event.
Yeah.
Honestly, I laugh so much.
Priceless.
I'm like, you do not know this human at all, do you? This is all his cunning plan to throw you out of sync.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, pretty solid group of lists. Seems like you can play most scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
And then should we dive into the games?
Yeah, well, of course. I would suspect nothing less from you. Tell us about the Bristol lads you played. Round 1.
Yeah, so we paired into Sigmar's Pilgrims with the lovely Carl that is part of Team Lit.
Carl.
So we obviously knew we should do okay into this without being too arrogant. We had a lovely game with them, lovely round in fact, in which I played against Alex, who was the captain, who did all the pairings, and I decided I would defend with myself on Border War.
Mm-hmm.
So I played against Sylvaneth, and I wasn't very nice. I deployed. He also deployed quite aggressively, and I was like, Is that an 8-inch charge with my Vanguard, which I can catapult off your trees? Oh, sign me up.
Juicy.
So I went in. Dry. Very dry. 10 Chosen went in through the Gaunt Summoner, running, blinking, setting up 7 away, 3d6 charge, anti-monster. And then the 6th Vanguard, I got the spell off for 3d6 charge. Marked them Corn, +1 attack. And then I basically charged his whole army top of turn 1. He was spread out like in 2 separate castles. But the Chosen decided they would double activate and they would kill Balthanos and Durfu twice, because Durfu came back through the Seed of Rebirth, and I was like, well, I know this is going to happen, so I'm going to double activate so that you just die again. And then my 6th Vanguard decided to kill 6 Kurnoth Scythes through the Kurnoth Scythes striking first, and Alariel top of turn 1, which left poor Alex with a Branch Witch and 5 Gosmids. So
there's a 4-up he can roll.
Yeah, about that. Alex didn't roll any 4-ups, and he basically played his turn 1, of which I then countercharged and killed his Branch Witch, because I'm a nice guy. I don't play with my food, just get it done quick. and he scored battle tactic for take their land with the Gossmids and hold a flank, maybe. I can't remember. It was just something like that. But they're 2-inch coherency. They're being annoying little jobs worths. He then won priority into 2 and had to take it because it was his only way of scoring 2 points for holding the objective and trying to roll a 4 up. He didn't roll a 4 up, so he decided he would let me kill him, see who wins priority. He won priority again, didn't roll a 4 up, and then conceded. And that game was 50-8. And it might have lasted 15 minutes. It was quick. The rest of our round went really well. Gabe played into Slaves of Darkness and lost 19-45 on Border War. We then got Freddie into Soul Blight on Shifting, and he won 50-26. Somehow we've got Soul Blight into OBR on Shifting as well, and we won 50-3. Don't know how that happened, but yeah, I don't know how OBR only scored 3 points on Shifting. Richie then played Carl on Feral Foray, and we won 50-28. And then Lewis played AO on Feral Foray. And if you know about Feral Foray, they have 4 woods.
4 forest.
What do Stonehorns like to hide in against shooting armies? Forests.
There we go.
And
They're herbivores. Of course they would.
We won that game 50-14. So we ended up capping the round, which was a good start to the event. How was your round 1? I think your round 1 was actually better than our round 1.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
So we played the lovely Team Fact. I don't quite know where their club is from, but they're all great and wonderful people. Had a jest during pairings, and yeah, we had a Feck mirror on, I want to say Shifting, and a couple other interesting games, but I can't quite recall which pairings exactly. I played the lovely Sean on Border War, him running his Slaves to Darkness, which were wonderfully painted, and I was a bit like apprehensive of, because Big Bad Slaves to Darkness, it's a really tough cookie to get through. He ran Bellicor, 10 Chosen, 6 Vanguard, and then a couple Chaos Warriors and Chaos Knights. And no, he didn't run any Vanguard, only Chaos Knights. There we go. And yeah, I won the roll off, gave away first turn. He came at me, did make the charge with the Chosen into the only unit of Longstrikes present on the board. Then I took the turn, took off 9 Chosen, shot Bellicor down to 8 wounds, and then proceeded to slowly chip away at his armor when I won the double. And in the end, we played a 40-26 because Bellicor started running around with a unrendable 4-up save, which was quite annoying, frankly. But it gave him a chance to score a couple more points, score a couple more tactics, and yeah. Overall, I think we won the round. We won all our games. We capped, though I don't know by what margin we did so. And yeah, that meant that we were top of the pile after round 1, which then in turn, of course, meant that we got a beating.
I wonder who you paired into.
That's what I ask myself every time I wake up. How did that happen? Why did it happen? Why did it have to be us? Couldn't it have been anybody else?
You decided to win too hard. You horrible, horrible man.
We flew too close to the sun, and we got to play Phil's team. The big bad of the event.
The big bad. Yeah. We had a great round though. I think we gave each other both our best sports votes in terms of favourite games. So again, we had a really good plan with pairings, and we were trying to get Gabe into Math Mallow, which worked splendidly. So we took Piece of Chaos out of the Matrix. So that was beneficial to us. We then kind of basically said, do you want to play? Well, we offered Gabe to Mark, but we also offered me.
Yeah.
Which was like, you either take Gabe and have like a game, or you remove the big bad from pairings early. And they decided that I would be responsible for letting Mark finish early for round 2. We then had Lewis into Greg on
Greg.
Was it the Vice?
No, he didn't play the Vice. Yes.
Star Strike. I also played Star Strike into Lumineth. We then had Skaven into Piece of Chaos and Close to the Chest. Simon played against Adam on Close to the Chest. And then that just leaves your pairing.
Yeah.
Who was?
Freddy on the Vice.
Would you like to play
how
against?
many wounds 35 Wrathmongers and 40 Blood Warriors have?
A lot.
Too much.
Yeah, we were quite happy with that matchup in that scenario.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
And the final pairing, of course, was Richie versus Will, also on the Vice.
Yeah, how could I forget? So, why don't we start with your game, as my game might be a little bit quicker.
Yeah. Well, the Vice, of course, being a battle plan where you slowly move towards the center, I was quite apprehensive to play it. And reading that Blades of Khorne list obviously gave me shivers. And the only light in the darkness was that I was playing Freddy. First time that we played one another, really. And talking to him occasionally about Warhammer and about our games and Khorne lists last year-ish. We had a good time. Of course, banter is always nice. And yeah, I deployed pretty defensively since I won the roll-off. I knew that the mobility of Blood Warriors and Wrathmongers could be insane with Blood Tithe points. Also, redeploy, Blood Tithe move. Sort of makes that list really difficult to try and work out with shooting and so on and so forth. Because, of course, being 9 inches away to shoot, he only needs to roll a 4 on a redeploy and can then Blood Tithe move into combat with a unit, which completely stops the shooting, of course. And yeah. Did I take first or did I give it away? I think I gave first. I gave first away. He pulled out the invocations to screen out as much of the board as possible. Since, of course, Wrathmongers die to a stiff breeze. Blood Warriors usually don't, but also they're quite slow and don't necessarily have the largest footprint to really screen out an army with 18 Longstrikes in the skies. So he really just tried to minimize the area that I could utilize for my shooting. So in his turn 1, he did tactic, scored 2 objectives, it was over to me. I tried my damnness to unbind the, I think it was the axe, to sort of get it out of the way to open up my shooting, but that didn't go through, unfortunately. So I played for my other outs, tried to mitigate the things I really had to drop in order to move forward on the board. I managed to get off a cheeky attack on two, no, not attack on two fronts, sorry. Cheeky do not waver early by charging a unit of Longstrikes into Claws of Karanak. And then also one of the invocations, the Skulls, which in turn left a unit of Vigilors standing far forward as a screen, and also a unit of Raptors who were moving into one of the forests. Scored 8 as well, and then came the roll-off. This would decide a lot, really, since I was able to take off the Wrath Axe with shooting in my turn. And Freddy won the roll-off, took the turn, and began putting more pressure on my units. Since now the objectives were moving towards the middle, he could really utilize the bodies that he had to start blocking out my units from the objectives that I wanted to control. So I managed to get off the translocation in the off turn to sort of remove one of my Longstrikes from harm, put him next to the toilet. Also did a cheeky 5-inch redeploy to get them out of threat range from more Wrathmongers, and played it pretty defensively. Both scored 8 again. And then he also managed to get a charge off onto my Celestin Prime with a couple of Blood Warriors. They boxed him down to, I think they did 4 damage or something to him. And then the mortals that he did in return sort of nearly killed him. He was down to 2 wounds. And then came my turn. Obviously, tough spot to be in. So I dropped my remaining Longstrikes in hopes of achieving a Slay the Entourage on the 15 remaining Blood Warriors that were surrounding the Celestin Prime. In the end, it did work out. I shot them all dead before they were forced to sort of fight in combat. And yeah. Now from turn 2 to 3, the roll-up was pretty key as well, since the Celestin Prime was not only free, but also staring down 10 Wrathmongers, and a couple of Longstrikes were 1, near the toilet, 2, out of combat to teleport, and 3, next to the Night Relictor. So the chance was there that I could basically shift my entire army to the other side of the board, take an objective off Freddy, and score possibly the 6-point turn that I needed to keep me in the game for a bit longer, without having to grind out the middle as much as he forced me to do. In the end, I didn't win the roll-off, and it slowly became clear that Blood Warriors are a lot harder to shift when you don't have a Celestin Prime and 18 Longstrikes to help with that. So in the end, it came down to a 40 to 30 in Freddy's favor. Both scored tactics all the way through the game, and yeah, we gave each other no quarter. We both admitted at the end that we gave each other such a headache with movement abilities, shenanigans, and gaps we might leave in the other's plans. And it's just, Khorne is a matchup I think that the Longstrike list doesn't really want to play, since the way that they can block shooting with redeploys and Blood Tithe moves is really, really strong to cuck the unattentive shooting player. But yeah, I think it was still a pretty good game, considering it's not a favorable matchup on not a favorable battle plan. It performed very well. And I'm pretty happy with the result, I have to say.
Yeah, I think it's solid, getting 6 points out of the matchup. in terms of the differential. Not that the event was done on differential, so
Actually, it was 8 points.
So
It was
I did it on, so my matrix that I have, I've redone it all to world scoring,
well,
which
in
is
that
why it's
case,
probably
yeah.
different. Might be worth adding, like at the beginning of the event, it was done that it would be on total VPs.
Yes.
The rounds, that's how it'd be decided, and that's how the event would be decided. So I think once players kind of knew they'd won and scored 50, people were being a bit loose with like letting people have points and stuff. And then round 3 we found out is actually going to be done on wins and not points.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden people actually becoming probably a bit more try hard, trying to force through these wins and stuff. But ultimately it made much more sense to do it on wins, because you could end up losing 4 games.
Yeah.
But getting more victory points if you won them bigger.
Yeah.
So yeah, just thought add that in quickly there, as it seemed like a good opportunity to squeeze it in.
And it wasn't necessarily the start of round 3 that we were informed about this as well. It's sort of spread by
murmurings.
Yeah, throughout the round.
So I got to play the lovely Mark Colwell. So those that don't know, Mark's part of the management team for Team England this year. He's an absolute gem of a human being. Probably one of the nicest guys you can just be associated with or be around within the AOS scene in the UK. I wasn't very nice to Mark on Starstrike.
You're a bad human. Atrocious, really.
Second game in a row, I've gone first. I've done Offering of Carnage, destroyed 2 enemy units. I think I destroyed more than 2, but essentially I just, again, same play, 3d6 charge on the Vanguard, Bark of Corn, dump out the Chosen. He'd castled in the corner, kind of hoping that he would try to mitigate stuff when he was probably better served spreading. Because where he sat everything was right behind a wildwood. So when I dropped my Chosen out, I couldn't be countershot by 20 sentinels. So I went in very dry again, and I took off, double activated everything again. So I took off 10 Dawn Riders, 20 Sentinels, a Starshard Ballista, a Lord Regent, and a Fox. Which meant at the end of my turn 1, at the top of turn 1, he had 5 Wind Chargers, Riverblades, and Alania. And is it Elfinor?
Elthor, yeah.
And that's kind of it. So, again, at this point, we didn't know that points didn't really matter. So I was like, well, you could probably do this and probably do this, and got some points. But we didn't play any more turns of Warhammer. And yeah, I got a big 20-0, 50 points, job done. The Star Strike objectives landed really stupidly as well, so it was just never going to be a game. But Mark took on his chin. I bought him a double Jack Daniels, just to soften the blow.
Yeah.
But yeah, we ended up capping Team Lit only just. If there was a cap in place, because again, I've just done this for my internal references to see how we're scoring. But ultimately, we had a great round against everyone, and everyone was saying that they enjoyed their games, etc., which is the most important thing for me with Team England, is that people are enjoying playing us.
Yeah.
So hopefully that will long continue into the future. Yeah. So England, we've taken out the number 1 ranked team going into round 2. They were sat 6-0, sitting pretty,
Mm.
and then they lost 5 games against us. So we ended up playing the next best team that in the current standing. So this team, yeah, they came second overall. It was a pretty strong team as well, to be fair. It was the Bad Moon Loons stroke 9-inch fails. So 2 London clubs combining together, trying to make like a super team, a London super team. So the team was Matt Goldsborough, Hazel Moon, Dom Stonebridge, Toby Resnick. What else did they have? They had Aaron Boyhan, who helped them out because they had some last-minute drops, but Aaron plays on the Welsh team, and Kieran Alander. So really strong players, really competent players. And we had a great round against them, really tough games. We ended up getting ogres into Soul Blight because Matt G was running all the Blood Knights, and we felt like the mortal wounds could be quite good into them. Unfortunately, that game didn't go our way. We ended up losing that 44-36. We got Richie into Slaves of Darkness, which isn't a matchup Feck wants, but we managed to pair it into Scorched Earth. So we managed to keep pushing Slaves down to Scorched. And Slaves don't want to play Scorched Earth because there's too many objectives, particularly against the Recursion army. So we managed to just about get the win there, despite Richie basically losing every single model really, really quickly. So we won that one 42-40. It's a super close round. We then got Simon into Daughters of Cain on Scorched Earth as well. So Soulblight versus Doc. This wasn't like your standard Doc list. It was kind of like an all-comers list. Lots of units. Marathi, Cauldron,
the works.
Kafusa.
Oh yeah.
So loads of little bits. So really close game again down there, which ended up 46-40 to the Soulblight. Freddie then realised how hard it is to kill a Bastiladon. Not 1 Bastiladon, but 5 Bastiladons with Lord Croak. So Freddie went into that on focal points and won 45-29. So super solid, but it was just a grind of hoping he lost units to do Mortal Wound splashback. That was the only way. We then got Gabe into Hazel in the better part of Valor. So Skaven versus Ogre Moor Tribes. Hazel was also playing the monster truck build, but this time with Kragnos. And we lost that game 40-44. So really, really, really close. And then I played the lovely Dom Stonebridge. We always seem to play each other at events. I'm not going to complain about it. He is beautiful.
Yes.
So he was playing Karazai, Storm Coven, Prosecutors, Vigilers, Reinforced Longstrikes, and what's the big Star Drake?
Yeah. The
that
Lord
actually does
Celestin on Stardrake.
That does a lot more damage than I gave it credit for. However, I didn't pay a lot of respect to Karazai top of turn 1. And despite knowing I was going to be -2 attacks, I sent it. And I sent it fucking hard. So, obviously, top of turn 1 again, didn't I?
Of course you did. So this is turn, just for a recap, this is turn 3 of Warhammer you're playing at the tournament.
Basically, yeah. So, top of turn 1, I've gone, all right, I'll destroy too many units. not going to say I'm going to kill Karazai, but we're going to give it a bloody good go. So Karazai's there with his little prosecutors. Are they prosecutors? The 5-up ward guys? Yeah, praetors.
Praetors, yeah.
So many units that begin with P and V
Mm.
in that book. Needs changing. Come on.
Yes.
Matt Rose was there. Should have mentioned it to him. So we've yeeted in special assignment, anti-monster. These little chosen lads are like, I don't care if you're going to half my attacks. I'm going to kill you. So they yeeted in straight into Karazai. The Vanguard yeeted straight into the Storm Coven and the Vigilers.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't bother double fighting the Vanguard, but boy did we double fight the Chosen. The math says ignore the Praetors.
Yes.
So we ignored the Praetors. We spiked. Oh boy, did we spike. We did 18 damage through the 5-up ward on the first swing with only 19 attacks. So I don't know if it was me spiking or him just rolling really badly with saves.
Oh, God.
So I was Ren 2. He was on a 4-up save. So we just stood there looking at him going, you've got a lot of attacks now. Please don't kill me. So as they're getting fucking walloped, the Vanguard just lift the Storm Covenant and the Vigilers. And they're sat on his home objective on Border War going, ho 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 ho.
This is ours now.
We only lose 5 chosen. So you're telling me there's a chance?
I believe.
We go in. 11 attacks. 10 mortal wounds. Here we go.
Oh boy.
I was like, just roll these first. You know, save me some time rolling my wound rolls. Karazai's dead. The champ is here. He is here. He has arisen. Dom, however, obviously, despite it being an uphill struggle, did play out all 5 turns because he knew getting points would be important somewhere down the line.
Yes.
And I ended up winning the game 50-17, just from where he still had 6 Longstrikes in the sky and the Star Drake. I did maintain every priority though, so I never got doubled by it. And just managed to keep picking away, making sure he couldn't score my home. I would constantly be scoring where I need to score, etc. But had a lovely game.
Yes.
And then we ended up winning the round 75-45. And 4 wins and 2 losses, which was great. How was your game through?
Well, lovely that you mentioned it. We played the Black Sun. So a well-renowned team of hobby legends who've been playing Warhammer much longer than I've been in the hobby, or maybe even alive. So we played them 2 years ago at Brotherhood. Had a great time then. And this time around, they showed up with a rough roster. With Iron Jaws, Hedonites of Slanesh, Seraphon, all the spicy armies and picks on the players that knew how to wield them. So I guess apart from our round 2, this is one of the rounds we were most like unsure really about. Because at this point we've received a beating from Team England, and we've won our first round by pretty high margin, put it that way. And yeah, so the pairing meant that I got to play the lovely Laurie on focal points. He was running Iron Jaws. I was, of course, not necessarily happy about the battle plan selection, since I don't want to fight in the middle. Give me 6 objectives, please. Anything but physical combat.
There's an 8 objective in that round.
Yeah, I know. And I didn't get to play it. Somehow
And a 6.
Mark ended up on the 8. Anyways, Lori basically took one look at my list. Of course, we had a chat about it beforehand, since Phil, Lori, Tom, and myself drove up from London. So we had plenty of time to discuss our lists, our thoughts on it. And so we were pretty well informed-ish about what each other's lists did. Just to mention, it was old Iron Jaws, not the new book that has already been released, so that's something worth mentioning. And he ran a lot of brutes, 2 big pigs. One of them was a big pig boss, and double war chanter, and a weird knob shaman. All, of course, a ragtag collection of wonderful models. I outdrop him in any case, so I gave away first. He did a take their lands on one of the forests with the big pig. I then took the opportunity to strike back, deploy on a couple of objectives, and was able to remove the big pig for Slay the Entourage early on. And then it came down to a roll-off. I did win the roll-off, and I did try to shoot off as many brutes as I could, which ended up working out. There were only 3 brutes, and I think a unit of 10 left at the end of it, and a couple of art boys just trying to tag objectives and try to make the most of 4 inches of movement. But in any case, he was pretty scared of the Longstrikes with his big pig boss. He feared that somehow the stand and shoot with the ruling that you can redeploy and counter shoot at the event, basically making them a huge threat to his main damage piece aside from the brutes. And yeah, in the end, he tried to hide in a forest, tried to get the brutes back up to full health while trying to tag me in combat with as many of his models as he could. The Celestin Prime did a lot of the heavy lifting in melee, clearing out 2 or 3 brutes every single turn, with mortals, and of course being run 2. Also slowly decimating the Iron Jaws, whittling it down. Played a lot. It played very similarly to the Khorne matchup, with the difference that it wasn't as many wounds that I had to really punch through. Also, this was the 3rd game that my Knight Relictor didn't have anything to reduce war saves on. He was getting pretty frustrated. But in the end, he did actually kill 1 or 2 art boys, so he redeemed himself somewhat with his combat prowess. In the end, it was a 42-22 on an unfavorable battle plan, with an unfavorable matchup. I want to play low saves generally. I would have loved to play the Slanesh, but oh well. You can't win all of them, which is what we unfortunately did. Since pairings, since scoring changed, and this was not necessarily something we were looking out for when playing our games. Math actually surrendered his game in favor of scoring more points for the team, and Adam was distracted by football, so he did an oopsie in deployment, and that cost us a game as well. In the end, we drew that round, 3 wins to 3 wins, and yeah, overall a very, very lovely round to play and enjoy. We had a lovely time, of course. I was a bit sort of apprehensive about how Laurie would react on the drive home, but he took it well. So yeah, It's also interesting because Laurie's a member of the community that I've heard a lot about, just going to England and attending tournaments, speaking with all the Team England people, and of course with him being a former member of Team England 1 or 2 years ago.
So he was non-playing captain last year. He's played at quite a lot of Six Nations.
Yeah.
He's still part of the England setup, so he is a member of our selection committee. So
Oh,
he's
nice.
a
Okay.
very established person within the scene. He's very local to me. So having someone local to help with what is a really tough selection process within Team England is really nice, particularly having someone that I've got a lot of respect and admiration for. As when I first got into the AOS community, I found out Laurie lived really close, and that's how I found my local club, Lance and Buckler, through Laurie. So, yeah, lots of great things that come out of meeting these top players at events. Which, yeah, Lance and Buckler can probably take a lot of credit for my progression within the game. Just having a local club that plays lots of games. Yeah, really cool.
And of course, playing Laurie, that immediately shows the way he thinks about the game, the way he approaches you as an opponent, and the way he then reflects on the games and chats about it, just make him a very, very good opponent to have, and of course a great sparring partner, I imagine, as well. So huge shout out to him. One of the most enjoyable games of Warhammer I've ever played, and of course counting a couple of other attendees that we've also already talked about, Freddie of course, and Dom Stonebridge being among the top players to sort of face at the table, no matter the matchup and how favorable it is. And yeah, so that concludes day one. Pretty happy-ish. Had a good time.
Yeah.
Had a good round one. And a pretty decent round three. So, yeah. Team England, of course, smashing face, taking names.
Yeah, we had an okay day one, so to speak. I don't know if... Oh, do I have it? Let me see. Oh, is it going to work? I don't know if it's going to work. No, that's opened in Chinese or something. Yeah, so we finished the day on, what, 15 out of 18 wins? And quite a lot of victory points. I don't have it to hand, the exact amount, but yeah, very productive day. We
Okay, let's continue. Sorry for this short technical interjection. Yeah, day one concluded. Team England performing well, of course. Team Lit being a bit downbeat, but there's always the evening to redeem it. And I did it. After 3 years of promising Adam Mumford to go out with him in Cardiff for Brotherhood, I caved. So Carl, Mark, Adam, Will, and Kieran Alander, we all decided we're going out. And the first stop was Spoons, of course. I had the first Stella I've ever tasted in my life, and I now know the cultural history associated with that drink.
Do you now own more vests than you used to own after drinking that?
I did. I am concerned. It's getting a problem. It's beginning to be a problem. And then, of course, we headed to a rock club, which was very enjoyable. And somewhere along the way, Kieran, oh no, not Kieran, but our beloved Carl left us, and oh, Jay Smith was there as well. Love Jay. Went to this rock club, stayed for an hour or so, cried our hearts out to Lincoln Park, and then went to Metro's, which was pretty dead.
Sticky.
Sticky, of course, but dead. Nobody was there. Still had a good time, and got home at like 1:30. Pretty decent. I was sort of disappointed. It was promised an atrocious experience, and it wasn't as atrocious as I feared. So, kind of disappointed. It should have turned out much worse.
Yeah. I just watched the NFL highlights. Not the highlights, the playoffs.
Oh.
I was a good boy. Yeah, just had some beers at the hotel. Watched the playoffs.
Very nice.
Knowing we had a big round against the Welsh in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, yeah, I was not gonna frequent Cardiff. I am too old for that shit. So yeah.
You're barely 10 years older than me. You're fine.
Yeah. 10 years is a lot when you get older.
Yeah. You've already teased it, so we'll just go ahead and talk about that now with round 4.
Yeah, so we obviously paired into Team Wales. Again, I defended on Battle for the Pass because it's a good scenario where we just start 18 away and can just yeet in if he deploys too offensively.
Yeah.
I then paired into Skaven, and I knew they were going to offer this to me because on day 1, their Skaven player smashed Ricky on the Black Suns team, who was running the identical list that I ran. So I knew this was going to be an option. So I took that out the pairings, and I'll run through what I did top of turn 1 shortly. We then paired our Skaven into Beasts of Chaos with the plan to remove Owen from the Matrix as quick as possible, because Beasts of Chaos are really, really good.
Obnoxious, yeah.
We then got Freddy into limited resources against Slaves of Darkness. Freddy felt super confident that he had the tricks to play against the Slaves list. But the Slaves list didn't have a Gaunt Summoner. It was Bellicor, Sorcerer Lord, 10 Chosen, 6 Vanguard, blah, 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 blah. So it didn't really have that hyper mobility that my Slaves list had. We then got Spellblight into 11 Dragons on the Jaws of Galley.
Yeah.
We then got Flesh Eater Courts into Ossiarch Bone Reapers on Battle for the Pass, and this was the Mortek Crawler build.
Yeah.
But obviously we were cavalry, so we weren't too worried about it. And then we got Ogre Maw Drives into Seraphon on limited. So because of the damage reduction is each phase on Stonehorns, Croak on average does like 3 mortal wounds to a Stonehorn with the triple Croak bomb. So really, really solid there. So I played against the lovely Mark Brooks with Skaven. His list was 6 Rattling Guns, 6 of the Warp Fire ones, the Ren
the
2
Warp Fire
ones.
throwers.
Thankwall, Vizic, 20 Storm Vermin, a Claw Lord, and 40 Clan Rats. And he kind of set everything up, I'm guessing, in a similar way in which he did against Ricky. However, I charged his army properly. So I used his Clan Rats as my catapult, where I would complete off Clan Rats, then tag everything else that I wanted to fight, but leave Vizic out. So he couldn't force me to hit Vizic until I wanted to hit Vizic.
Yeah.
So top of turn 1, I killed the 20 Clan Rats, the Claw Lord, the 20 Storm Vermin, the 6 Warp Fire thingies,
Yeah.
and Vizic. With 6 Vanguard and 10 Chosen, which, again, Offering of Chaos, turn 1, you're just yeeting in. So at the end of my turn 1, he had 20 Clan Rats, 6 Rattling Guns, and Thankful. I then managed to unbind the -1 say no command spell from Thankful. And I managed to countercast a 3d6 charge, which meant when he charged Thankful into my pretty neutered Varangard, after being shot by a fucking shit ton of Rattling Guns, I catapulted off of the terrain piece with 10 Chosen into his 6 Rattling Guns. Couldn't get them all in, which was quite good for me, and I left one in combat, so I just won the priority and did slow the entourage. So, big brain plays.
Just roll badly at selective situations.
So basically, I'd killed everything in turn 2 bar Thankful. But because of the nature of Skaven and putting the Gnaw-holes down, he managed to still score quite a few points. So it's hard for me to take my home back that quickly. So it ended up being 50 to 30, but under no real threat of ever losing the game, if that makes sense. The rest of our games, we managed to win 4 of them in total, losing 2. So we lost into Owen, Piece of Chaos, as expected. And then Simon lost into Dan Arnold, 40 to 30, which meant our total round score was 76 to 44 in terms of the world's cap that I'm imagining.
Yeah.
Who did you manage to play round 4?
Well, round 4.
After your Metros experience?
So since we had a rough experience in the second half of day 1, we were sort of meddling with the middle tables once again, and we got to play the Legio 9. We played them last year, and I think the year before that as well, so this is a returning matchup for us. Lovely people, always enjoyable to play against. And I got to play Tony with Khorne on limited resources. Again, Khorne not necessarily being a favorable matchup for myself, and him obviously having a lot more tricks up his sleeve was sort of an interesting one to play into. I won the roll off, deployed first, gave away first turn. He tried to get out as many invocations as possible, which you of course should do in Khorne, trying to screen out the available slots for me. And completely forgot to mention, he was playing a Bloodthirster, 60 Bloodletters, and a Slaughter Priest, and a Bloodmaster. Yeah. So I basically ran, he shifted all of his models forward, and played for a very solid core that I had to focus fire on to try and break through. In my turn, I took a Slay the Entourage, dropped everything as close as possible to the Bloodletters, knowing that he had the tools to sort of get me into combat and stop most of my shooting. I was able to use the Prime strategically, where his sort of the 3-inch bubble that he provided where he couldn't redeploy into meant that he could only tag one of my shooty units. And that is what he then decided to do. I failed the 2-up roll for reducing ward saves, which made Slay the Entourage a bit harder because it's still 40 wounds that I needed to punch through, realistically. And yeah, so I was able to take out the Bloodletters with a charge from the Prime. If I had rolled a tiny bit higher, I would have gotten into the Bloodthirster for a wonderfully juicy general to kill turn 1. But in the end, that didn't really work out. We had, of course, then the priority roll off, which he won. He did a Slay the Entourage on the Prime, which he nearly didn't get. He had to commit the Bloodthirster, who in turn took a boatload of damage from the Prime, and then some Bloodletters as well, to fully take the Prime off of the battlefield. And then it turned into a slow slog of trying to outmove and outmaneuver him while still being able to shoot him in a way where I could actually put damage onto his units. And of course, Bloodletters returning when they're in combat meant that I had to sort of commit one unit after the other to sort of have them, or knowing that they would probably die, and still trying to shift around to score the limited resources points while still maintaining some form of board presence. In the end, he had like 28 Bloodletters left that were running around the battlefield in 2 groups and still keeping me at on my toes. I had a couple of Longstrikes that were teleporting around the shop, scoring points, taking tactics, and yeah, it was a pretty close game. And I do have to admit, I should have put up a clock because I feel like he took much more time with his tactical decision making than I did. But then again, using a clock is also on me to enforce it, to ask for it, and to then say, hey, can we play on the clock? I'm sure this will take a while. But that's just a mistake that I made. And of course, Khorne being an unfavorable matchup still meant that we played the exact same result as the day before, a 40-30 in Tony's favor. But overall, we were able to win 4 out of our 6 games, so we were pretty solidly looking forward to the final round.
Nice. There's still a chance.
Mm-hmm.
Still a chance. So round 5, we paired into the Black Sun, and we knew we needed 3 wins to win the event, no matter what else happened. So we paired based on that. So we looked at our matrix, identified where our 3 most likely wins were going to come from, and that's how we paired. So we basically looked to prioritize Freddy in Border War, and looked to get him the win that he needed, because unless you play Khorne regularly, it's really hard to play against.
Yes.
We then prioritized Richie in Scorched Earth, because with all the recursion against their no recursion armies, it meant we were always going to be able to win that game, whether that was big or small, didn't matter. And then we also prioritized Lewis on Ogre Moor Tribes in Shifting. All counters 10, try and take me off these circles. Probably not going to happen with all the 5-up wards. Which then left poor Gabe to play against the Slates of Darkness 1-drop on Border War.
Who knew?
Simon to play a England player in Mike Stewart on Feral Foray with his Seraphon. And I paired into the Skaven 1-drop, 21 Storm Fiends on Shifting, which is a bit of a coin flip based on who wins turn 1, who wins the roll off. Because if in theory, if you get doubled by that Storm Fiend list as a Slaves player, it's going to hurt. However, there is small amounts of counterplay with having the 3d6 charge set up. So, like, I started everything on the table. I didn't bother putting stuff in the Silver Tower.
Yeah.
I knew he was going to make me go first. So I just put 10 chosen on one objective, 6 Vanguard on another, 10 chosen on another. I got the spell off. I pledged to Slanesh, and I had the banner. And I went, if you come down, I've got 4 goes at 3d6 charging something, basically, because you want to try and hit me. Which meant he had to respect my charge play, which meant he set everything up 15 inches away. Which kind of meant that in his turn he couldn't be as aggressive because you're too far away from me.
Yeah. Because basically Storm Fiends move 6, you're still 9 away.
Yeah. It was a good job though, because I made 3 14-inch charges.
Whoa.
So I reckon, squeaky bum time. So I got doubled by the Storm Fiends. And I was like, I knew this was going to suck. However, it only sucks if they roll well. So
still
I
only
lost,
hit on 4s.
Yeah. So I lost 8 chosen to 9 Storm Fiends.
Ooh.
And then another 9 Storm Fiends came into the other 10 chosen. They only killed 4.
Oh boy.
Those chosen double fought and killed 8 Storm Fiends. Yeah. So
yikes.
It's then my turn, of which I've got 1 Storm Fiend left locked in combat with 6 chosen. Cast Fight Last, slay the entourage, job done. Then I've got 9 Storm Fiends locked in combat with 1 solitary lad. And my Vanguard are sat in the middle. He's done his job. He's like, I am
die
here.
now.
This is me. Come save me. So the Vanguard, go in. We're double tapping, baby. We lift all 6 Storm Fiends. Then we fight again. And we kill the other 3 Storm Fiends. So at this point, I've had 2 turns. I've not gone first, so I couldn't kill anything turn 1. Tears everywhere. But I have killed 21 Storm Fiends by the end of turn 2.
Respectable.
Again, he played a really solid game, Brandon, and kept duking it out for points. We've been able to bring units back, still been able to do some tactics. And the final score was 50-20. We ended up losing the Skaven Slaves matchup, which we anticipated. Freddie beat Stormcast on Border War. We had a dead tie with Simon versus Mike Stewart. Richie then beat Feck, beat Slanesh even with Feck, despite not realizing his whole army had anti-cavalry.
Those 20 Seekers.
Yeah, it
nasty.
It did a lot of work turn 1. I think all 18 Morbegs were dead turn 1. Yeah, and we still managed to win 48-40. So fair play on that front. We then had Lewis, who beat Laurie, 46-16 on shifting objectives with the monster trucks. So a really solid showing from the lads. Obviously, I alluded to it. We got our 3 wins. How did your game go?
Well, Team Lit got the honor of playing their finest hour. This team is known as the Rules Writer team because Ben Johnson and Matt Rose and a couple of the other Warhammer employees get together, play a bit of Warhammer. And we played them 2 years ago. where I took off 4 Stormdrake Guard with Kragnos turn 1 by rolling 36 more wounds.
Love to see it.
Well deserved as well. Hate those things. And yeah. We paired based on vibes, as we have done for the entire event, and that led to my vibes being completely off because I was put on shifting objectives in the Stormcast mirror. So another army without ward saves I could reduce, another set of targets that I couldn't necessarily punch through the armor of. It was a 1-drop Stormcast Eternals army with Krondys, Kronspine, 4 Stormdrake Guard, 10 Vigilors, and 6 Longstrikes. So, yeah. That went about as well as it could have, considering that I had atrocious dice rolls, where 18 Longstrikes nearly didn't take out Karazai, and the Celestin Prime whiffed every single armor save that he could, despite his best efforts not to do so. A lot of things I learned on that, sort of in that matchup against Adam Hall, who's a wonderful guy, and we really had a good time, was that Stormdrake Guard with Prized Beast are obnoxious.
Yeah, quite good.
And even if they charge something that you're not necessarily sure they will live, just pop a Finest Hour on them. Go for an all defense. Because they hit regularly anyway. So you're just going to sit on a 1-up save. And always be +1 to hit. Don't even need Vigilors for that. And it also works on companion weapons.
Yeah, it's good. Really strong.
Yeah. I mean, I decided to be the villain in this tournament and go for the 18 Longstrike build. And that matchup showed me that it's not necessarily something that's easily paired, because you always look at opponent's list more than you look at the scenarios that you play. Or in this case, it seemed to be the way that Matt and Adam decided to pair. In the end, we lost that round, I think 4-2. But still had a great time. It's always a pleasure chatting to Matt Rose about some of the rules and just have a little bit of a go at him for making 18 Longstrikes a possible Warhammer list.
Yeah.
But yeah, we did have a great time, and yeah.
I think it's really good having the guys in the Finest Hour attend events. Particularly Matt as head of AOS. He cares a lot about the game, and he really respects everyone's opinions and insights, and he wants to know what the problems are that need fixing, and he's constantly looking at the data and changing it. I think Matt's been great for Age of Sigmar and the way the game works now. So just want to, he's probably not going to watch it because he's too big time. So, but yeah, he's a great person to have in charge of our wonderful little game.
Yeah. And we, of course, appreciate all the work that has been done. Like, I think the last battlescroll was one of the best changes for this edition that could have been made. So, really well done.
Yeah. Right.
Results. Yeah. Team Lit, unfortunately, couldn't really build on the momentum we gained last year with our 3rd place. Superb showing last year. Bit less so this year, this time around. The change in scoring meant that Team Lit came 10th, since it was, or 9th, 10th, or I think it was, oh god. I think we came 9th. 10th or 9th. But if the scoring had stayed consistent, we would have been somewhere in the top 7, maybe 6th, I suppose. But yeah, always a great time to come over to Wales to play the event. One of my favorites on the entire calendar. Um, but yeah, Phil, drum roll.
So the other England team came third,
Hmm.
despite slightly handicapping themselves round one. Two of our players didn't turn up. Um,
Oh no.
we, however, obviously won. So my trophy there. So I put it away, and it's been
Yeah.
like 2 weeks. It's just sat there. So we came first.
Nice.
Um, super proud of all my team. I think we paired really well. We kind of learned a lot from the TTS is real event. Um, and we took some more dynamic lists to kind of play multiple scenarios.
Hmm.
We got exactly what we wanted out of the event. We looked at some factions that aren't really being looked at. So yeah, it really worked out well for us.
Great data collection.
Yeah, I love some data.
Hmm.
What I would like to say is Brotherhood was the last Brotherhood as we currently know it. I believe it's been taken on by Dan Arnold and Owen Jackson, who run the Welsh Open,
Hmm.
or it's being alluded to that that's happening.
Yeah.
And Blackout won't be happening anymore, which is Chris Tomlin's singles event, which I believe is being taken over by Ricky Mee, who runs Realm Shift out of Bournemouth.
Hmm.
Personally, I want to give a massive shout out to Chris Tomlin for everything he's done for competitive AOS in the UK. He runs probably the two most desirable events from a single standpoint and a team standpoint, and has
Hmm.
done for the last 5 years. They always sell out. They're super hard to get into. Blackout was my first ever 5-0 when I started, and I'm personally super proud that I get to win the last ever Brotherhood. So,
Hmm.
Chris, I just want to say a massive thank you for everything you've done. I hope that's not your stint over in the hobby. I hope you get back to playing, and I look forward to seeing you across the table. So that's from me and Team England. I don't know if you've got any thoughts, Quinn. Obviously, you've attended quite a few
Hmm.
Brotherhoods.
Yeah. Also can only add to the laurels that Phil is putting on Chris, of course. Being one of, well, Brotherhood being one of the reasons why I travel over to the UK, why I am a part of Team Lit, and why I decided that we were gonna pull through with the YouTube channel and all of my international sort of tournament going, is thanks to Brotherhood and thanks to the effort and the community that Chris has fostered over the years. And I think that even though there are always points of critique to mention, there is very little that can be said to tarnish the reputation that Chris has built over the past 5 years.
Yeah,
And speaking to him outside of, or at the event itself, outside of AOS, just hanging out with him is just something that shows how passionate of a human he is and has been for the hobby. And it can only add to the sentiment that I hope to see him across the table as an opponent one day, and that he gets a well-deserved break and might even return to hosting tournaments at some point.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, so yeah, thanks, Chris, for all that you've done. What's up next for us then, Quinn?
Oh boy, club championships. It's 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks. Math Mallow, Toby, and I are taking the local club to the German Club Championships to raise hell and defend our title. We've already had like a small internal discussion. If we do win again, I get to place a trophy somewhere up there.
Nice.
So yeah, that's just fueling my fire to go out and perform.
Don't mention fire. Don't do it.
Oh God.
You'll only entice people.
Yeah.
So I've got another team event this weekend in Coventry as part of the Justice Series team event hosted by Richie McCallie. So we don't have a like quote unquote super team. We've got 3 of the England players, and then we've got some local guys. Basically, we've all clubbed together to try and make sure the event goes ahead as the first one in the series, and they were desperate for the 6th team to make sure it happened. I was meant to be going to Tracksuit GT, ran by Pete Brizio, and I just want to say thanks to him for being really accommodating with me effectively dropping 3 people from his event to go and help Richie with 5 days' notice. So thanks, Pete. Really appreciate you being understanding with the situation. But looking forward to just playing Warhammer. Like, I fucking love Warhammer. So
we all do, mate.
What is going to be interesting is with my roundabout team, we have got to play a very strong French team.
Oh no, the 9-inch baguettes.
Yeah, they're all right at Warhammer.
I've heard.
We're gonna do our best to compete with them. However, we've got a couple of people that, well, one person's never played an event before on our team, so our priority for the event is to make sure that she has the best time and wants to continue going to events. So
nice.
We're kind of not taking like the proper filth. I'm not taking any chosen. I'm not taking a Gaunt Summoner. I am taking Varangard. Only 3, just 3.
Oh.
Yeah.
You're a narrative player now.
With Archeon.
Oh, you really are a narrative player. Goddamn.
Exactly. I told you I was a hobby hero at the beginning. So, yeah, so that's next up for me. But yeah, I think that's kind of it in the build up to Worlds now from me. I'm not really sure what yourself and Math Mallow have outside of the club championships.
There's the club championships. I'm going to a tournament near Cologne. I'm going to Oslo for a team tournament. I think there might be a singles tournament in there somewhere. I'll have to check my calendar. Wait a minute. I just got it right here. Yes, I am old-fashioned and I write things down. Yeah, there's this small UK team event that I'm going to at the end of March. Not sure what the name is. Like,
yeah, how the hell could I forget my own team event? Yeah, there's that. So that'd be good fun. Lots of people hanging out, having the best time.
Yes.
But until then, remember, you get no extra points for being a